Hi all. I think we'll get started. Hey, first of all, welcome to Dynamics Day 2014. Really great to see such an awesome turnout today. This is the largest Dynamics-focused Customer Connect event in Australasia, based in good old Kiwi land. So thanks all for making this such a stunning success. By ways of introduction, my name's James. I'm the GM for Dynamics in New Zealand. This is the sixth event showcasing the best of what Microsoft Dynamics has to offer. So we're really excited about the content this year. I've had a sneak peek, and I've got to say some of the stuff that the guys are going to bring is absolutely fantastic. So I think you're in for a bit of a treat. Just dispensing with some of the formalities quickly. For the benefit of those around you, if you could keep your mobile phones on silent, that would be fantastic. And in case of any emergencies, the fire escapes are just behind me, so I'll be the first out. Just follow me. Each year, Microsoft goes one step further, one step ahead of the year before. And this is, again, the biggest product release year in their history. And as such, I think the timing of today's event is pretty fortuitous for us. We're really pleased that Microsoft aligns their release strategies to our Dynamics Day. We're really fortuitous to be able to display today, for the first time publicly, the Dynamics NEV 2015 product, which, if you have had the opportunity to have a little sneak peek, is an absolutely stunning platform. First of all, you guys make this a success. Thanks so much to all of you for making the time and effort to come down here and enjoy and then experience some of the content that the guys are going to share with you. So I guess there's a hell of a lot of us in this room, but just a show of hands, who's been to Dynamics Day before? Well, there's quite a few. 3 or more? All 6? Wow. Congratulations, everyone. Thank you very much. Hey, look, we've been running this 6 years, and each year we seem to get bigger, gets more complicated, but it's a real great honour to be able to catch up with all of you guys. I just wanted to make a special mention. Have we got Daryl Johnson in the room? He's obviously not made it from Invercargill. Okay, so I was just going to say thanks for attending, but his plane's delayed. I'll move on. So, this is not on. We've got a packed agenda today. And again, this year we've got a whole host of content across 3 streams. But first of all, we're going to start off with the focus on the conference theme. And then what we want to do is to take you through a shape of Intergen and a little bit of an understanding of what the recent media announcements mean to both you and ourselves. First of all, thank you very much to Microsoft. Again, Microsoft's continued leadership support, bringing the great content to the keynote, and they will be sharing with us the strategy and update and vision with us all. In terms of the Intergenites at Dynamics Day, we have 37 people here today, 37 our team, 9 members of our leadership team available, and 7 members of the Microsoft team are here as well. Now, we're all really keen to be able to connect up with you and share some experiences that you've had in your business. It's obviously a wonderful opportunity to connect with so many professionals and specialists across the product in one room. So take that opportunity. They're easily identifiable. There's a whole host of them standing over there. They're all dressed up in these black Dynamics Day shirts, so they're pretty easy to grab hold of. So coming up with our theme this year, we wanted to convey what we perceive to be a key strength of Microsoft. I suspect we've all been involved in, or all experienced, disconnected customer experiences and been a little bit disappointed by that process. And that's often due to disconnected processes and systems in the back end. I'm reminded of an experience actually that my wife recently had. And we were sitting in our lounge and she was ordering some flights on her mobile phone. She then exclaimed and said, "This is hopeless. I can't even select my seats." I think we're forgetting the fact that she's just made a significant purchase on a device like that. So this is how far we've come. In 6 and 7 years ago, the concept of booking flights on a mobile phone wouldn't have even been in our vocabulary. And I'm sure that a lot of us around in this room will be able to cast our mind back to remember the days when we went to travel centres and got little tickets that had carbonised copies on them, and we guarded them with our lives. So providing joined-up seamless experiences is paramount on every platform. The visual experience that provides that brand reinforcement of the front-end systems is also of great importance. So what we've seen is that there is an increased spending on IT that engages and understands your customer. That's all accelerating. And there's an increased focus on consuming these services through cloud platforms. By contrast, the traditional back-end plumbing has not been accelerating to the same degree. Now, for those CIOs in the room, it's a sharp intake of breath, but Gartner suggests that by 2017, chief marketing officers will have a larger IT spend than their CIO counterparts. Now, this is only made possible by having platforms that are already natively pre-integrated. Releasing the organization's IT spend to allow us to focus on platforms that engage the customer, that empower better decisions, and to allow us to respond swiftly to market opportunities. Today we'll see the latest in Dynamics solutions, the roadmaps, and importantly, how Microsoft are building all of these solutions together. Most competitors, and quite rightly so, say that they integrate with Microsoft. I mean, who wouldn't? I've even experienced my competitors saying they're more Microsoft than Microsoft. Now, I think that's a little bit of a funny one. But that's distinctly different from Microsoft. Microsoft develop their solutions. They develop their solutions together, mindful of one another. And I'd say that sort of connectedness is part of their DNA, if you like. So we view Microsoft as being unique. The only vendor that provides market-leading solutions across server, across line of business applications, through to the front end and front of house apps that you so love, called Outlook, Excel, and Word. And now in the hands of the mobile users through their many devices. And I'm sure that you'll hear a lot about devices throughout the day. So are Microsoft making it simple for us? Not sure why this is not building. So our theme this year is just that. It's making IT simple. In an increasingly complex world, systems and processes must be business enablers. And the pace of market change does not afford us the luxury of time. And I speak to a number of individuals in this room, and they're all about trying to extract value from their IT investment quickly. This is all about a real emphasis on shorter time to value. The pace of innovation this year has been outstanding across the Dynamics family. And pre-baked into that, into these great solutions that have been brought to market, are some common components such as Office 365, SharePoint, Link, Skype, Yammer, and of course built on top of the fabulous platforms of Windows and Azure. In terms of the cadence of releases, this year's been really, really quite exceptional. And the first off I wanted to talk about is Dynamics AX 2012. It was a major release that brought about a whole new suite of solutions for advanced warehousing and transport management, for instance. If we turn our sights quickly to Dynamics CRM, for instance, there was no less than 8, or as planned, no less than 8 functional releases this year, including Microsoft Social Listening, Microsoft Dynamics Marketing, and Parature. And of course, we eagerly await the Microsoft CRM 2015, which I'm sure that we're going to get some sneak peeks today. We will see many of these solutions today throughout. However, what I would really like to call out is the Microsoft Dynamics NAV 2015 release. Today we celebrate the release. It's the largest selling ERP solution by volume, and Microsoft announced this solution to market on the 1st of October and the 6th of October for existing customers. A whole suite of tools were provided for fast deployment across the full client, across the web client and the tablet client, providing real-time insight virtually anywhere, anytime. Just before we move on from Dynamics NAV, I just wanted to play a very short video which actually I think encapsulates our theme really nicely. It's kind of the native plumbing at work.
You may have heard about the new Office, with services available in the cloud. Now, you can add a finance management solution to that experience, allowing you to take your business virtually anywhere. Let's take a quick tour to see how this works. Imagine you come to the office in the morning. You open up your device and your Office 365. Here's your email, your inbox, your contacts, all with a familiar look and feel. In Office 365, you also have SharePoint, SharePoint Online. Here you can have a team site, which the whole team has access to and can use to collaborate with each other every day. You can also access critical numbers you want to follow on a day-to-day basis and a range of reports with the ability to drill down into key numbers, all in real time. All data and reports come directly from Microsoft Dynamics NAV. Just one click away is your complete Microsoft Dynamics NAV tailored to you. No additional password needed. We unite both worlds with one interface. From your Office 365, you have a direct link into Microsoft Dynamics NAV. Microsoft Dynamics NAV looks and feels just like the rest of Office 365, making learning and using the financial application easy. We bring both worlds together into one united experience. You log into your day and have integrated access to all the information, business processes, and tools that you need to do your job. So every day, users of Microsoft Dynamics NAV can collaborate more effectively with the relevant people and together get more out of their information.
So I think that that kind of powerfully demonstrates how plumbing has been built into some of these applications that Microsoft's bringing to market. And as Albert Einstein puts it, make everything as simple as possible, but not simpler. So throughout this event, we're going to be celebrating the power of these dynamic solutions, how they provide a connected experience leveraging all of Microsoft. Additionally, we'll explore how we can consume these solutions as services, which further simplifies the deployment. As the market moves at pace, Intergen had to respond by providing a structure to our business that drives the best possible outcome for our clients. So to take us with us, take through some of these changes and what the future holds for Intergen, please join me in welcoming Simon Bright, CEO of New Zealand.
Thanks, James.
Thanks, Simon.
Morning. I was lucky enough to be one of the people that did put my hand up to say that I've been to 6 of these events. So as James says, it's quite special to be in attendance today. I was reflecting on some of the things that James was talking about, and I found it quite interesting that we're sort of discussing moving from a highly disconnected and very complex world to a simple connected world. And I just wanted to let you know that we left this here so that you could see what the past did look like. Cool. Hey, so I guess my job here today is really to give you a bit of an insight to our business, where our business is today and where we're taking our business over the next couple of years. But I guess as a bit of an intro to that, I wanted to start really by taking a bit of a look back and looking at some of the themes that we've seen coming out of the market and how they're actually influencing our business. So the key thing that we talk a lot about, and you would have heard it in James's opening, is this concept of faster time to value. pretty much every client that talks to us is talking about how do I actually realize the value in the investment of the software that I'm making in a much shorter time. And some of the themes that come out of that, some of the things that you guys are talking to us about today are things like rapid prototyping. And rapid prototyping, or prototyping as a concept, isn't something new. It's something that we've all been doing for many, many years. But the concept of actually repeating and rapid prototyping is a little bit different in the sense of, if we join these dots, if we think about out-of-the-box capability, if we think about things like consumed services, all of these things tie up. So if we've got the ability to continually prototype as we evolve our solutions, it means that we can realize that value a lot faster. One of the things that we always talk about, and often you talk to us about, is this concept of, if that's the case, if we're effectively going through a transformation of our systems when we put new technology in place, how do we manage the change? And again, prototyping has a major role to play in that. Prototyping allows us to visualize what the future might look like before we actually have to take that big step to make it real. So we think it has a big role to play. For many years, we've talked about the ability of taking out-of-the-box capability rather than building capability in the solutions that we work with. And I think, I'm not going to ask for a show of hands because I think we'd all find it quite embarrassing to put our hands up, but without doubt, we have that conversation, but without doubt, we then go and build a whole bunch of stuff, right? So again, if that is the case, what does Microsoft need to do? What do the solutions need to do? They need to deliver more and more capability. And I think what you're going to see out of our teams today as you break out to some of the rooms is what some of that capability looks like. But I'd also reflect and say that, the changing theme that we're starting to hear from our clients is actually, it's not our business processes that give us the competitive advantage in the marketplace. We used to think that. It's actually it's actually the way that we interact with our clients, our customers, and it's the way that we actually work with the people in our businesses. So that's quite different than the traditional conversation that we used to have around having the most unique processes because we are the most unique business. Consumed services. So consumed services is a really interesting concept for us. The sort of concept of software as a service has been around for a while now, and we're all pretty familiar with that as a term. The thing that's starting to come through now is understanding, if we are using software as a service, what does that actually mean for our business? And what does it mean in terms of the licensing that we've purchased? Consumed is about actually using the things that we've taken hold of, okay? And not just using them on day one, so not actually turning them on and using that first bit of functionality. And the classic example when we talk about consuming more and more is Excel, right? I don't think anybody I suspect, in fact, who uses Excel? Okay, who thinks they use more than about 10% of Excel? 3 or 4 brave people. So that's my point, right? So, we make a big investment in the software that we actually take on board, and I suspect that our dynamic solutions are of the same ilk. So if we can consume more and more of the value within those solutions, we can do that without further investment. There's a couple of other things that come into play here, but in essence, when we're talking about faster time to value, it's about how we connect all of these things. So from an industry experience perspective, again, I think the whole world is changing. You guys used to look to us and say, so where are your industry experts that can come in and help us and work with our SMEs in this business? That's really important, and it still holds true. But one of the things that I think that we all need to think about is, from within our own businesses, what does that actually look like now? Okay, the times have moved on, and the position that we used to be in when we had people in our business that had been in our business for 18 or 20 years and knew every process end to end, and therefore when you come to do a large-scale ERP implementation, you can grab that person, align them to the industry expert from an organisation like Intergen and say, go for it. Where are those people today? They don't exist anymore. The tenure within each of our organisations has changed dramatically. If you have people staying in your business for 4 to 6 years, that's exceptional in today's marketplace. So again, if that is the case, how does that change the way that you actually consume software, how you undertake projects within your own organisations? All right, so moving on. What does that mean in terms of our business and the way that we actually work with you as our clients? has some pretty significant impacts. And the first one that we talk about is from services peaks to continuous consumption. So what we mean about that is that, we built our business 14, 15 years ago basically to deliver projects, okay? What we're now getting to is actually we're delivering end-to-end services that are consumed by our clients over a continuous period of time. So again, if you're taking on software and you're looking to realize the value in that software very quickly, you tend to chunk it up, which tends to mean that our projects are of very, very different nature. What's also happened in this space for us is this concept of software as a service. And what we've focused on over the last probably 18 months is what does that look like for our business and what do our clients want out of that? We've got a really good example in our Cohesion product. Cohesion is a great, it's been a great learning lesson for us. It's allowed us to basically take a packaged application and put all of the things around it that turn it into something that can be consumed as a service. We learn out of that. What we learn is we learn how to write a service catalog. We learn how to build processes that allow our clients to consume the capability and processes within that software at a very rigid, within a rigid boundary. So those lessons need to be taken on to basically everything that we do. The other thing that's come through pretty strongly is this concept of accelerated solutions. So again, faster time to value, right? If we've got a packaged application that is pre-configured through accelerators, we can realize that value in a much shorter period of time. And again, I think you'll hear a bit more about those accelerators from the teams in the rooms today. And the final thing really is around moving from application to platform management. So again, in our business for many years, we've talked about the fact that, we run a project with you guys and then basically we move into a position where we provide application support. If that is a continuous evolution of that piece of software, what does it look like for our business today? And what does it look like in terms of the way that we actually work together? It absolutely changes that, right? So it means that we need to understand that actually there's a platform that's being delivered that from day one needs some nurturing and needs some watering, okay? So we are seeing some pretty significant changes in the way that we need to work with you and the things that you're asking us for. So hopefully some of these things resonate. What I wanted to do next is really turn a little bit to, so what does that mean within our own business? And pretty much everybody in the room is a client, and as such, we think it's important that we give you some insight to where our business is at. So we set a vision for Intergen a number of years ago, and there's extrapolation or other extrapolations, I guess, that I can provide around this. But there's some key things that I wanted to take from this. So as the largest dedicated trans-Tasman Microsoft services provider, we want to leverage our breadth of capability to help our clients transition from on-premise through to private, hybrid, and public cloud solutions. So that's our aspiration. So fundamentally, that sits at the back of all of the thinking that we have. There's a couple of things, I guess, in there in terms of the concept of being strong across the Tasman. We set up an Australian business 4.5 years ago now, and we've grown that business pretty well. We have about 55, 60 people sat across the Tasman that are primarily Dynamics focused, so we effectively went Dynamics led within Australia, whereas in the minute you'll see there's some other aspects to our business here in New Zealand. But also this concept of helping our clients transition to the cloud. I remember standing up on this stage probably 2 years ago, if not 3 years ago, and talking about what the cloud really meant. That's not a conversation we need to have with most of our clients these days, and I suspect that, or I expect that everybody in the room is thinking about what the cloud means to their business, and if they're not already making that transition, they've got it pretty clearly mapped out. So I'm going to come back to this in a second. So to support that, we made some changes to our business. And I just want to quickly go through these just to give you a sense of the things that you probably saw in our business over the last 9 months. So we reorganised our business to be nationally aligned rather than regionally aligned. And I can see a number of people in the room that have been with Intergen, working with Intergen for a lot of years. You will have experienced the opportunities that come from the growth that we've seen in each of the regions that we operate. So we used to basically operate under a model that said, here's a new area of New Zealand or Australia that we want to operate in. Let's build a business out of that. And what we realised is as our clients become more national or in fact international or trans-Tasman, the conversations with those clients needed to change and they needed to be more consistent. So we moved to a national-based practice structure, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go. For you, it's about making sure that irrespective of where your business sits or your branch of your business sits, that we're applying the right people to help you take that business forward. So in our business, it effectively broke down those barriers. One of the other things that it did was it allowed us to take a much more consistent approach. So we're pretty proud of some of the frameworks and tools and methods that we've put in place over the years. We strongly believe that we have a PMO of world class, and we strongly believe that the work that we've done around the Microsoft SureStep methodology and our own version of that being Ensure, that we've taken something that is world class. So we want to make sure we apply that consistently in pretty much everything that we do. We aligned our supporting functions to support the practices. So we had some disparate services in terms of the way that actually occurred. Really what we've done is underpinned it so that we know that we're driving the same outcome. And the final thing was around a single point client responsibility and understanding this concept of continuous relationship rather than project-based relationships that we traditionally had. So just a bit of an introduction. James mentioned that we got a bunch of our leadership team in the room today, so I wanted to make sure those names were visible to you and you understood who our people were so that you can go and talk to them if you don't already know them well. So we've got John Bessie here, who is our Director of Client Development. I think John's down there, and Emma as well. Emma Barrett, who's our Director of Solutions and Services. I'm not sure if the other guys are in the room at the moment, but obviously James is. So James heads up our Dynamics business, Toby Spendiff heads up our Enterprise Solutions business, and Joe heads up our Cloud Services business. You'll have the pleasure of interacting with Chris shortly, who's down there. So I guess for us, this is very much about an opportunity to connect and to make sure that you've got the resources available to you to have the right conversations. So there's our team. Go find them if you'd like to talk to them. Really where I want to end this section of my presentation is just giving you a sense of the breadth of capability that we have at Intergen, and I guess why we have that breadth of capability. So, you know, I had an interesting conversation yesterday, and I don't know if Hamish Dorwood's in the room at the moment, but I was in the Auckland office yesterday, and I was talking to Hamish about some work that we're doing with a particular client at the moment. And if you do know Hamish, he's our practice lead for Dynamics AX based here in Auckland. And I'm having a conversation with Hamish, and I suddenly realised that something had happened. Something had gone seriously wrong because he hadn't actually mentioned the word AX to me. In fact, he was talking to me about what SharePoint was doing for this client. It struck me at that point that, you know, this whole concept of connected services, this whole concept of actually Microsoft bringing a suite of solutions together that forms the overall capability that we're looking for. And that was one of the things that drove it home for me. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I just wanted you to understand, we talk a lot today about the Dynamics platform, but I think what you're going to see fed through, and we're going to spend some time talking about data insights or BI capabilities, you know, where does that competency come from within our business, and, you know, why are we unique in the marketplace and able to bring these things together? It's because we have this depth and breadth of capability. You'll see at the bottom of the slide I refer to having 270 people in 8 locations across 3 countries. That's my nice segmentation into the next thing that I want to talk to you about. But to do that, I probably need to just break down that number. So we talk about 370 people. 310 of those 370 people sit within our New Zealand business. So that gives you some sense of the balance that we have, with about 20 people sitting in Seattle and about 55, 60 people sitting in Australia. If you go back to our vision, our vision was basically to be the largest and strongest trans-Tasman provider of Microsoft services. So if you saw the news this week, we announced that we had been acquired by Empire Limited. So to give you a bit, who has seen the news? And, yeah. Everybody's got a Twitter account or something these days. So I guess this is pretty exciting for us. It's something that we've been working on. I keep saying 12 months, but actually I was sharing with Adrian Johnson before that actually it started almost 2 years ago, and the fire in the belly to actually get something done in this space actually started 12 months ago. So it's been a long journey for us. So what you're seeing is the culmination, the last sort of 2% of that journey. But we announced on Tuesday that Intergen was being acquired by Empire Limited, effective 1st of November. So we're basically in the closeout stages at the moment. And you can imagine that this is something that with Empire State, i.e. they are an ASX listed company, that we were unable to actually advise any of our clients prior to that particular point in time. So Empire was formed in 1999. They have a strong history around Microsoft, primarily around the infrastructure and outsourcing space, rather than the business application space. But they recognised at some point in their evolution too that they needed to extend their footprint in the Australian market in particular, and they acquired two companies in particular. They acquired a company called OBS. And OBS would, in our view, as we look into the Tasman and we think about our own strengths around, particularly around SharePoint and around CRM, OBS would be our biggest competitor in that marketplace. They are the organisation that has the greatest amount of competency within the SharePoint space in Australia. So that happened about 12 months ago, and then about 6 months ago, Empire acquired a company called eSavvy. And again, if we look across the Tasman, we would look at eSavvy as probably being one of the strongest CRM providers in that market. So it made logical sense as we started talking to Empire that rounding out this proposition, this fully connected end-to-end Microsoft services proposition, that Intergen and Empire should join forces. Hence, we are now the largest trans-Tasman Microsoft services provider. So I guess we look at it as realising our vision. We look at it realising our vision faster than we probably anticipated. We knew that we had to make some acquisitions in Australia. We knew that we needed to list at some point to give us the capital structure to allow us to realise that vision. What we've actually done is we've joined forces with somebody that already has some of those mechanisms in place. So, I guess, if I stand back and reflect, we're pretty proud of the relationship that we've had with Microsoft for 14 years. We're very proud of the fact that we are singularly focused. And, we sit here today, Dynamics Day, and we're very proud of the fact that we can bring such a large group of people together to share knowledge and gain value from a day like today. So this is our next logical step, and I guess from your perspective, the way that you need to think about it is from our New Zealand business, this effectively has no impact. It has no impact on our business other than the fact that it changes the governance that we operate. So we no longer have a New Zealand board or an Intergen board. We report directly to the Empire board. But other than that, our leadership team, our structure, all of the things that I've just talked about in terms of our competency and capability, all of those things remain intact. For you, it also means that you have access to a greater pool of capability and competency as we need to bring in specialist expertise from our companies based over in Australia. And you've seen some of that already. In fact, you're seeing some of that in the room today. Apologies for the people I missed, but I certainly saw Doug before. So Doug's based in our Sydney office, an expert in AX. He's over here today, and many of you have worked with Doug over the last couple of years. And finally, a greater financial strength and dependency is what we think this actually does. So if I go back to where I started, really, we still have the same vision. To be the largest dedicated trans-Tasman Microsoft services provider, helping you as our clients transition from on-premise through to private, hybrid and public cloud solutions. So as I say, we're very excited about this. If anybody would like to talk to me personally about it, I'm around all day, so certainly come up and have a chat. And obviously our leadership team is here to have those same conversations. So, that's me. So what I'd like to do now is, I I guess in light of talking about the partnership that we have with Microsoft and the innovation that we believe that the Microsoft solutions and ourselves provide as a combined entity, that support really has been recognised by Microsoft in a number of ways today. We have a bunch of people in the room with some stands outside that you can interact with some of the Microsoft folk. But at this point in time, I'd like to welcome and thank Adrian Johnson and welcome Adrian to the stage. Adrian is the Vice President of Microsoft Dynamics Asia, and Stephen Fowler, who is the Director of Solutions for CRM for Asia as well. So thanks guys for taking the time with us today.
So good morning. Thank you, Simon and the Intergen team for the opportunity to talk to you today. It's always good to come and speak to customers and sort of explain what our strategy is, what we're hearing in the market, and give a little bit of an update on the products that we have coming to market. I'd just like to reinforce a couple of points that Simon said, especially around the announcements that happened on Tuesday and the strength of the partnership. You know, we've had a very long and fruitful partnership with Intergen for many years, and I think the announcement on Tuesday just strengthens that partnership, and you'll see as we go through what we as Microsoft are doing on our overall strategy, how what has happened with the announcement on Tuesday just strengthens that, and I think that's especially a huge advantage and benefit for all of the customers in the room as well. So I wanted to talk about a couple of things. Between Steve and I, we'll sort of just start with what are we seeing in the market? What are some of those trends that we're seeing in the market? What are customers saying to us? And then how do we respond to that? You will have known that there was a new CEO for Microsoft, Satya Nadella, announced. He's been 6 to 7 months ago now. And he's come in with a change of direction and strategy, and it is around an integrated solution. And how do we provide the best productivity solution to customers, and how do we continue to innovate around Microsoft being a platform as a company? So let me start with what's happening from a market dynamic, and I don't think this is anything that anyone doesn't know. So, for example, how many people don't have a mobile phone in the room? No one doesn't have a mobile phone. How many only has one mobile phone or one device? So who doesn't have multiple devices? One brave individual only has
Three, Adrian.
3. Who has more than 3 devices? So you can see why that stat up there, 6.8 billion mobile devices is not, people say, well, there can't be that many devices, but when you look at that. The other thing that's quite interesting on here is 400 million tweets a day about products and services on a global basis. So what does that mean for you as an organisation? Well, we did a study the other day to a customer in Australia, and we simply turned on a social listening capability that we have in the product, which the customer at the time hadn't acquired, hadn't bought, but we did that as a demonstration of the power of this solution. So we went to the CEO and presented the results of that with the CMO, who was also in the room. And they had no idea what the social media on Twitter was actually saying about their brand. So it's quite a revelation to a lot of people in the organisation on what is happening outside their organisation and what is the feedback on that. So those are just a couple of examples of that and what's happening. And I think this is an interesting point on how do people change the way. We're all consumers. James spoke about his wife purchasing airline tickets on a mobile device. 50% of airline tickets are actually purchased on some sort of mobile or on the internet at the moment. There's a dramatic change in what people are doing between online and offline shopping. For example, how many people have never bought anything online on an online store? Not one person in the room hasn't bought anything not on an online store. So how that is changing the way, and what we're hearing from our customers and the people that we work with, is that has a dramatic impact on what happens when you go into the store. I work with a lot of automotive organisations. So a lot of people do research around their automotive purchase, their car on the internet, on social media, and trying to understand, and even go to the point of configuring their car before they go into the dealer to actually go and purchase that. 10 years ago, you would go into the dealer and you would get a brochure. So what does that mean? Well, it means that the behaviour of the salespeople when you walk into that dealership is very different. You have to actually be well educated on what people have been looking at. What are their interests? Because if you turn and say, well, here's the brochure, people actually get put off by that buying experience. So the way that people go through the buying cycle has changed dramatically. And I think organisations need to know how to do that, and we need to respond from an IT standpoint, from Microsoft that provides business solutions, on how do we help organisations respond to that changing behaviour. And so this is another interesting point, and it's quite profound really when you look at you think about yourself. If you're buying online and no one in this audience said they never bought anything online. If you don't get that thing online, what do? If you can't get the price or you can't get the product, you generally go to the next online store. Or you go to Amazon and it gives you a list of the actual organisations you could buy on. If you don't get the right price, you go to the next one. So it is about a shift in organisations of going from process improvement and operational efficiency to more on how do you focus on the customer. And the focus on the customer from our standpoint, from a Microsoft standpoint, is driven by those other things. It is driven by the connected environment. It isn't driven by social. It is driven by the choice that a consumer has today. And for those people that are in business, how do they respond to that in the best possible way not to lose customers? So how do they have the best customer retention? How do they have repeat business from customers? So we have to help organisations with solutions that can respond to that rapidly changing market. So these are some of the challenges, and some of the challenges when I think about the businesses that I run as well. The fact that if you are a head of sales, how do you actually get more information? It's about how do you not have to go through all the administrative process of where is the sales information, where is the sales stage of that process. The fact that a number of organisations look at the customer experience and repeat experience, or the repeat experience will drive additional customer behaviour. So these are a number of challenges that we have today. And the fact that the sales cycle has traditionally changed in a number of these organisations. So it puts a lot of pressure, I think, on organisations internally. And so it's how do you take that connected world that we live in today, and how do you actually take advantage of that to your own internal benefit? And I think these are some interesting stats if you look at this, and probably the one that's quite interesting from my standpoint is if you actually have a dynamic sales process. So a lot of organisations that we talk to don't actually have a well-structured sales process, or the sales process that they had was defined 5 years ago. And that's very different to the way that you have to define and you have to change and enable your sales process in today's world. So those people that don't have the ability to change and adapt to the new world don't get as high a return and productivity from their sales reps. And I think, if I was again to ask people in the audience, how many people would interact, how many of their sales force interact through social media for some, form in their sales process? How do they use LinkedIn to actually get relationships that may not have been there in the past? How do they understand what people are saying about their brand within the environment of social media and Twitter? So it's quite compelling on some of these changes that are happening quite rapidly. But then it's well, that's great that all of that stuff's happening and everyone's heard around cloud and social and mobility and devices. But then what do organisations do about that? How do they respond to that? And then more importantly, what does Microsoft do to help organisations evolve in what we see as an extremely rapidly changing environment? So I think this slide really sums up what we're trying to do from an overall dynamic strategy standpoint. And it is about trying to deliver the best possible customer experience for the organisations that we work with. And you see across the top, there is CRM was traditionally known around your sales, your marketing and your service systems. And I think that is still the case today. Then there's things such as e-commerce really evolved in the market, and there was a tremendous amount of spend that is going through e-commerce. If you look at the growth of e-commerce only in the last few years, it's phenomenal. I was with actually a couple of customers here this week in New Zealand, and the amount of spend that's going through their e-commerce sites is phenomenal. So they've got to be able to respond to that. So then that's another integration point that's looking at the customer-facing things. And then traditionally, your back-end ERP systems have been more around operational efficiency, process improvement, those types of things. And those are still definitely there today. But if you can't ship the right product at the right price at the right time to the customer, then you don't have a business model. So that's all being generated. So the person that is buying online needs to have a dynamic ability in the back end to understand that stock is actually available, that they can ship it to the customer wherever they are in the world, and they can do it at the price that the customer is looking at. So how do you have operational efficiencies in the back end? You would have heard, we've recently announced in AX that the logistics and the transportation management solutions. But people in the back end have to be as customer focused as it was in the front end today, which is very different to the way it used to run 10 years ago. People would talk about ERP as operational efficiency, process improvement. But today it is all about how does the customer get the right response and the right level of service across the organisation. And hence in the middle, it is really about having a 360-degree view of the customer from all aspects of the business. So what we're doing is pivoting our overall dynamics strategy around helping organisations deliver the most productive experience in relation to driving the best possible customer experience. Then if you think about Microsoft's overall strategy from an overall standpoint, this is probably the most compelling slide that we have today from where does Microsoft see itself, and we've got consumer businesses and we've got devices business, but from an enterprise business, it's this Microsoft Cloud for Business across all components. So three major components that we see, and for those of you who haven't seen this before, it's quite compelling from a dynamic standpoint, and it should, I think, give a lot of comfort to people in the organisations, in your organisations, that Microsoft is very, very serious about our Dynamics business. We see it as one of the three core pillars for Microsoft Cloud for Business. Productivity in the cloud, Office 365, which has fantastic traction in the market globally. Platform as a service, and you would have seen, and you'll hear more about how we're deploying those services on Azure and other platforms. And then the third area, having a productivity solution. So how does Microsoft have a first-party productivity solution that is complemented by those other two areas? And you'll see that today on how do we have very tight integration into our Office 365 solution, into our Power BI, running on an Azure platform. So bringing all that together for the benefit of the organisation. And it's not just about one component, it's about bringing those together. And then if the other key point on here is it's not just about in the cloud, it is about having a choice for customers. Some organisations are ready to go to a cloud environment straight away, and that's great. There are other organisations that are not yet ready. So we can paint, a similar picture for this on an on-premise solution, but also then allow organizations to move over time from a on-premise solution to a cloud environment, or indeed a hybrid of those because of their own personal requirements that they want to run a hybrid, some online and some offline. So a very compelling slide and I think resonates what has been said in the introduction around the power of Microsoft as a solution provider across all key aspects for business. So let me just...
Grant Thornton is a professional services firm. We operate in over 130 countries. The firm is built around solving complex business issues across audit, tax, and advisory. And so much of our sales pursuit process is really research-driven into industry issues or business issues. As our clients have success, we have success.
The primary reason for our success is our focus on the relationships. We view those relationships as crucial and a key differentiator for us in the marketplace. Now that we've implemented Microsoft Dynamics CRM online, we're able to look in the system, see the different touch points in the relationships and the last time someone was actually out there meeting with that client. We're beginning to use the dashboards to really understand our business, to gain better insights to our business, and to really forecast where we're going.
Microsoft Dynamics CRM has helped to improve the way we manage our client relationships. One of the big differences that I've seen using Microsoft Dynamics CRM versus the old platforms that we had is the fact that we're able to be collaborative across the enterprise. I believe now it's able to become really a predictor of future revenues and a collaborative tool that allows us to help close deals.
Microsoft Dynamics CRM has changed the game for us. One really nice feature is the Inside View feature. It provides us great data in terms of the organizational structure, the executive team, and who best we can leverage pre-existing relationships with those same executives. We've been on Microsoft Dynamics CRM for about a year now, and what we've seen is about a 450% increase in the number of opportunities that we're managing. We've actually seen a 39% increase in our overall wins. We have about a 36% increase in the average deal size. A great contributing factor to all that success is the Microsoft Dynamics CRM platform.
So, who in the room is in sales? Can't put your hands up. Don't be shy. Sales is good. Okay? So about 20% of you. Who in the room enables sales through some other function in the organization, whether in IT or... Okay. So I'd suggest we're all in sales really, right? If we're in a company, we're in sales. And the reason I like that video is I don't know any company that would say, really, I don't want any more opportunities, and I don't want to increase my win rate, and I don't want to increase the size of my deals. So 3 amazing statistics from a company using the stack, and it wasn't just CRM. There's other products in there, Link and SharePoint and stuff. So I just want to take you through a couple of slides. There's an interesting stat that Adrian didn't call out on one of his slides. He talked about the social stuff and number of users. There was one interesting stat on that slide that said the average person checks their mobile phone 150 times a day. I don't know if any of you noticed that. Yeah, some of you did. So let's be honest. How many of you think you do that? Seriously? Is that all? How many of you think you do it 200 times a day?
Who's doing it now?
Yeah, who's doing it now? That's a good question. Yeah, you're bored doing the phone. Okay. Yeah. I think the interesting thing, I saw that stat and I thought, that's crazy, right? That's crazy. And then I found myself counting how many times I was actually doing that. And I think I'm up to 200 times a day on a Sunday. And I'm probably up to 150 times before lunch on a work day. And I caught myself this morning, I had breakfast with Adrian, 6:45, we got together for breakfast. And I'd already checked my phone 30 times. So I think when you start thinking about it, we actually do it more than ever. And there's an interesting point on that. From a CRM perspective, for me that's interesting because The big challenge we've all had with CRM implementations is around adoption. How do I get people to use it in a way that they're comfortable with using? So I look at, when I talk to customers about CRM, I say, well, look, if this behavior already exists, and let's assume it does in your organization, and you have salespeople that are constantly checking their mobile phone or their tablet or their email, how do you leverage that behavior? By utilizing, let them access the system in the way, in a behavior type they're comfortable with and the way they use their technology, rather than try and reinforce a different way. So just think about that when you think about your projects. Sorry, I'll move on to what I was here to talk about. Who's seen this? Who's heard about sales productivity as a motion from Microsoft? Fantastic PR that we do. No one.
One person.
One person, because he was at a
there
session yesterday. Yeah, that's right. So let me try and wrap this up for you. Adrian talked about the 3 cloud motions. He talked about Azure, he talked about Office 365 and Dynamics being sort of the 3 pillars of Microsoft's Cloud for Business strategy. The way that we're trying to take our message around CRM is not CRM as a product. Yes, we have that, but the power of our product of CRM is when you actually combine it with our other products. So never think of CRM as a silo of information or data capture repository. We're really trying to leverage the power of the rest of the stack to make people more productive in their daily life. And if you think back to Microsoft's DNA, it's always really been about productivity, whether it was the desktop apps or the Office apps. It was about how do you drive individual productivity in their work life. And then when you think about their consumer business, is how do you drive productivity and entertainment in their private life? So we're trying to bring that together. So we have this thing, this motion called sales productivity, and it's a combination, I suppose, of CRM, Office 365, and Power BI. And Stephen Foster's got a session this afternoon where we're going to take you through that in a little bit more depth and show you some of the stuff that's really driving value in the organizations that adopt that sort of attitude and strategy. When you think about CRM as an organizational function, we all know that there's the marketing engine, whether that's the marketing pilot product that we've brought on or even the existing stuff, where we're looking at market segmentation, campaign management, stuff like that. And that's really all around trying to engage customers and build pipeline and stuff like that. And at the other end of it, we've got the customer care. How do I support customers after they've bought stuff? How do I make sure that I give them the right information? How do they get to the right person and maybe even self-serve themselves with the challenges they've got? The sales productivity thing is about that pillar in the middle. How do I sell effectively? How do I actually zero in on the right customers with the right products at the right time? How do I realize, which accounts has got the white space that I should be targeting now? How do I win deals faster? And how do I actually sell more? And then because of the social, how do I leverage the social tools within CRM for account teams, not just marketing? How do I leverage social tools within CRM to enable me as an account manager or me as a sales function to actually carry out those 3 targets? So the way we break this down, when I look at the sales productivity message, if I look at the zero-in element of that, how do I see data in a totally different way? We all know that CRM, the product comes with dashboards and more sort of operational dashboard information about my pipeline and stuff like that. But how do I expand that and use some of the capabilities in Power BI, make that information mobile, drill down on dashboards, give me some insights of where I should be targeting my efforts? When I look at the win faster, the 2 things that I just want to call out on this screenshot, and James is going to go through this a little bit more, how can team members collaborate? We've got some great assets and videos, and James will show one, Sales on the Go, which talks about how do I collaborate across my organization to get the answer or the proposal for the customer in an hour, rather than traditionally the 2 weeks of dealing with project managers and shipping and supply and factories and stuff. How do I get that tighter? And in this screenshot, you see, we've combined Link and Yammer to enable that collaboration to happen in a fast, streamlined way. work like a network, win the deals faster, get the customer the answers he needs so we can make an informed decision in a quicker way. And when I look at the sell more, there was another stat, I think you did mention this, Adrian, about the dynamic sales process. And CSO, I think it was CSO Insights that did this research that said, if you use a dynamic sales process, typically your salespeople have a 19% improvement on their quota achievement. Now, I don't know any salesperson that wouldn't be interested in getting nearly 20% extra sales. So the way this is enabled, and again, Stephen will go through this afternoon, is this concept of the business flow. And you can see that in, your top left-hand corner, where you actually drive a consistent sales process. You can change that sales process, absolutely. You can change it for the customer, the product, or wherever. Very, very configurable. But it actually gives you, anybody that goes into that opportunity screen can see exactly where you are, exactly where we are with that sales deal. But more importantly, what's the next best step? What do I have to do next? I haven't got to think about it. The system will give me the prompts. What content do I need to share? What's best practice on proposals? What's best practice on presentation? And really enabling the sales team to be more effective. And obviously sell more. And then underpinned on that, obviously it's Microsoft, so we're going to say this, any device, whether that's phone, tablet, PC, and even more importantly, whether you're an Android user on a phone, an Android tablet, iPhone user, or an iPad user. I don't care. I'm very agnostic about platform. I know I wear a Microsoft badge, and I do have a Nokia Lumia myself, which I think is a fantastic product, by the way. And if you ever want a demonstration of a Nokia 930, please come and see me. It's green, you can't miss it. But it's a great productivity tool. But I really don't care if you've got an iPhone. You'll get educated sooner or later, but I don't mind. I don't mind. So whatever device you want to use, we support it. And more importantly, if you log on your iPad over coffee in the morning, and then you change to your Android tablet in the afternoon, the system manages it for you. We're not trying to get you guys to build, well, how do I render it on this size device or this size device or this operating system? We manage that for you, so it makes it very easy. Adrian loves this slide. This is an interesting conversation. So we have this social thing, social listening within the product. And it's amazing what it can pick up. And we ran this, we ran a product, and it took us about 20 minutes to set up the listening tool. And Adrian was doing a session at the Grand Prix in Singapore probably 3 weeks ago, something like that, maybe 4 weeks ago. And Lotus were a sponsor of Lotus, and we had this session with Lotus. So we said, well, why don't we just do some social listening around the Singapore thing? And it was some of the interesting stats that came out of here. You can see in your top right-hand corner, as an example, in Asia Pacific, where most of the conversations around the Singapore Grand Prix were happening. And I was very surprised that 70-odd% of it was on Twitter. I thought there'd be more on the sort of Facebook thing, but really showing you where the share of voice is happening. So if you want to influence that market, where you should be focusing your efforts. And the other interesting thing for Lotus was most of their fans or the conversation was happening in the Philippines. And that's interesting. And you have to say, well, why the Philippines? Why is the Philippines driving more Lotus conversations than anywhere else? Because if I was Lotus and I'm doing the branding and the advertising and all that stuff, I'd really want to try and understand what impact campaigns or my presence is having. And the reason was because they sent a driver up there 2 weeks before to do a roadshow. So when the Grand Prix was up, most of the excitement and conversation was happening in the Philippines. I thought it was interesting, very, very easy thing to do and quite insightful when you're targeting your stuff. I wanted to make this announcement today, and I don't want to do you a sales pitch, but I will. We have announced the sales productivity message, and I talked about that actually being CRM, Office 365, and Power BI. And to enable that offer to land in the market, we've announced that we're going to do a special promotion, if you like, for want of a better expression, of combining those 3 individual SKUs at a promotional price. So you can now buy a professional user of CRM Online, an E3 SKU of Office 365, and Power BI for 84 New Zealand dollars. I changed the slide from US, so it is definitely New Zealand dollars. So it's an interesting proposition. It's a very, when you think about the whole product set you get for that, I think it's great value for money. But if you want to explore that, please speak to one of the Intergen guys and they'll talk you through that as well. NAV was mentioned, and although I'm not the NAV expert, I just want to talk about what we're doing on NAV and how that fits into the CRM Online and the Azure strategy as well. How many NAV customers are in the room? Okay, quite a lot. Okay, so you probably know more about this than I do, but I'm going to go through this. We have this expression called NAV in and on. And basically what that means is that NAV is now within O365 from a management perspective and how you manage the product. It can sit on Azure if you want it to sit on Azure. Obviously, it still sits on-premise, but you have to put it on an Azure platform as well. And then it also works and combines and is tightly integrated to the way CRM Online works as well. And again, on any platform and device. So we'll just go through some screenshots on this. I think it was James that showed the NAV video. So I think you got that whole concept about how it works with O365 tight integration and stuff like that. And then with it sitting on Azure, you can provision an NAV environment on Azure in hours. It's not a week or a month, and you don't need all these technical experts. I think Frank, one of our NAV guys, constantly tries to set one up and see if he can improve that speed. And I think he's got it down to about 34 minutes at the moment, something like that. So he's challenging himself to speed. But it's an hour thing to get this whole environment set up. And then with the CRM Online, that tight integration. So, we talked about that business process flow. If you got to a stage or you created a stage on the sales stage that says, this is locked, this needs to go to finance for credit control or wherever, that is just go straight to the finance people, and they can check the credit history and invoice payments and all that sort of stuff, and then come back to CRM. And even within the Yammer feed, you can see in the middle of that, you can link to maybe invoices and stuff like that. Very, very tight integration between the two products, really sort of extending the reach and making it easy to use. And then obviously, again, on any platform and device. And for those users that use NAV, I think we've just released NAV for 2015. There's an app on the Apple iStore, and if you use Apple products, it's a pretty good app. It looks pretty good the way that NAV is rendered through that process. And I think that's me, and I've got a video for you.
Now, the interesting thing on Microsoft Dynamics is that most people just think about an ERP. I see in a much, much broader way. Lotus F1, you can divide IT-wise the company in two worlds, what we call the factory and the performance systems. So the performance systems are these systems which the engineers are using on the racetrack, or the systems we are using for a driving simulator. With Microsoft Dynamics, we're going to redesign that performance side, and it will have one integrated system and no anymore the separation between the factory and the performance.
The Dynamics implementation is huge for us. It's going to change all of our business processes. It's going to mean the reporting and metrics that we have to work so hard to get today are going to come to us much easier. It's going to improve our efficiency. When that comes in, it's the end of the engine freeze regulation, so everybody's allowed to redevelop engines for performance, and we need to be on the top of our game in the next year or so to ensure that we're at the top come the beginning of 2014. We're not just innovating technically, we're innovating from a process perspective as well. And that's, I mean, the Dynamics implementation is a huge innovation in itself.
I think it was very, very clear that the business needed a complete new ERP solution. There was obviously a number of solutions out there on the market, but I think internally the studies we carried out in IT, it was very, very clear that the Microsoft technology stack was the most relevant for us, and it was me who made that first step, the first stage in calling into Christian and his team. And you know, from then on, within 40 days, we'd actually come together, put a deal together, and managed to introduce Microsoft Dynamics to the world of Formula One.
Maybe I'll stand this end of the room. So Lotus are currently, live running AX 2012 version 3. They're also looking at retail because they actually have a retail brand on Lotus. They're also looking, obviously, at CRM. They run, Azure. It's a fantastic story. If you get an opportunity to come to an event and hear the Lotus team speak, they do a lot of public speaking for us. It's quite interesting because, I view it as your traditional organisation on steroids. They have to R&D, manufacture, ship to the site and get it installed on the car every week. So they strip a car down completely twice a week, and then if something's not working, they go back to an R&D organisation that's sitting in England. They've got to put that through some sort of R&D, through 3D printing. So then they'll manufacture the item, and then they've got to ship it halfway around the world. It's a phenomenal story on how you have to respond and innovate on a very short period of time. So very, very interesting story. So on AX, and I know there's a session on this, I won't labour the point. AXR3, fantastic momentum in the market, a number of new areas around the logistics and the transportation management that we're implementing in some sites in Australia at the moment and other parts of Asia. Companion apps that if you don't know what those are, but essentially the ability to do things like time and expense on an app, again available from the store or your own internal store if you provision your own internal store as well. So a lot of stuff happening on the AX retail front as well. The distribution side, the professional services side. So if you are interested in the AX, please make sure you go to that session. The other thing on AX, like I mentioned at the start, the ability to deploy this solution on an Azure infrastructure, that's resonating very well. For organisations that want to save time, money and effort on putting up their test and their development or a pilot environment with the complete intention that they're actually going to deploy on-premise. But they don't have to worry about, those additional costs on hardware and the time to provision, and they're able to do that very quickly, do the prototyping, what Simon was talking about, rapid prototyping, do that in a hosted environment, sitting on Azure, and then take that work and then put that back onto a on-premise environment. So a lot of people doing that sort of thing at the moment. And also lifecycle services, which I hope they'll mention. I think they're going to mention in the AX session around how do you manage the life cycle of your implementation. So we've done a lot of work to help organisations be able to manage that. Configurations, documentation, user manuals, and a lot of stuff that organisations such as yourselves can really tap into and use, and to be able to harness that information as you go through the life cycle of the project. So it's great that we're up here talking about how great our products are. It's always maybe a little bit one-sided. So I thought it was interesting to put up this stat around, Ovum did a research at over 6,500 companies on a global basis. And what is, surveying them to see what is their intent to purchase their next ERP system. So it was quite interesting, and I think it's back to what we said at the start around innovation and how do we respond. Clearly, Microsoft is, I know, the youngest player in this market. SAP have been in market longer. Oracle, that I worked at for many, many years, has been in market longer. We are new in the market. But you'll see on the slide next on how many customers that we have today on a global basis. There is a rapid adoption of our technology. A lot of our customers run SAP at a core system. And look, that's fine for me, you know, and that they've spent, Microsoft runs SAP as its core financials. But we run Xbox, our Xbox division runs AX Manufacturing. You know, our Dynamics business runs on AX Manufacturing. So we have spent in the past a lot of investment on just basically a central GL to do reporting. But for all of those new businesses that we're looking at, we do use AX. So that's a common trend that's changing. And then over time, you will eventually look to replace that core system as well. But there's a massive adoption that we're seeing across the business in Asia. So if you look at the stats on a global basis, you know, 5.5 million users of the products today, 375,000 customers, 40 consecutive quarters of double-digit growth in CRM Online. So that's, you know, pretty significant. 10 years of double-digit growth. I think a lot of organisations would like to have that. You know, 40,000 CRM Online customers, you know, 19,000 AX customers, and, you know, over 100,000 NAV customers. So, you know, a lot of momentum that we're seeing in the market. And again, you know, want to thank you for you know, your trust and in us and Intergen in helping you transform your businesses, because at the end of the day, I think it is about how IT organisations help businesses innovate. You know, in our industry, you're not known for tradition. You had the best system 10 years ago, and it's still a good system. You're not known for for tradition in the IT industry. You're known for innovation. And, you know, how do you innovate? How do you provide more value? How do you stay ahead of the curve? And that's the thing that we're seriously trying to concentrate on and do within our industry. How do we constantly innovate, understand the market dynamics, and continue to innovate? I just wanted to close on why we, you know, what do we hear from our customers? And you heard in the videos on what people are saying, but let me just, you know, pull out a couple of points on this. Productivity, how do you use those tools that you use every day? You know, Simon asked how many people use Excel. I think almost every person in the room's hand went up around, you know, using Excel. How do you become productive? So what we're hearing in the market is that our products are easy to use, and then that helps drive user adoption. At the end of the day, great to have a system, but if they just use Excel all day and then don't use the system, that's really not driving adoption, and it's also not giving you a return on that investment. So how do you actually get a return on that investment? And the fact, you know, the social integration that we're driving more broadly, you know, the acquisitions we've done around Yammer and Skype and those types of acquisitions from Microsoft all up, you know, are very, you know, powerful indicators that we're getting back from our customers. That's great, but, you know, and the fact that we're innovating across those and bringing those into the suite as well. And the value, there is a lot of value. At the end of the day, organisations want to get value from their systems. How rapidly they can get that value and the return on that investment is a key consideration. And then I think the last point I just touched on is, as I mentioned before, the ability to have both a cloud environment and an on-premise environment, or a hybrid of those. And we are getting a lot of feedback that it's a key differentiator for us in the market to provide one solution that is the same solution that you can run in a cloud environment or that you can run on-premise, and the ability to switch between those is quite seamless. So with that, I will thank you for your time. I'm going to now do an introduction to the next speaker, but before I do that, let me just comment on a couple of things on the partnership. As Simon said, you know, Microsoft and Intergen have had a very long and I think successful partnership. And, you know, some of these things on this slide do indicate that, you know, an Inner Circle award, and for those of you who don't know, Inner Circle is basically a top 1% of partners globally. So to get into that Inner Circle is quite unique and is very selective. And, you know, it's great to see Intergen within that Inner Circle. TAP programs, which are essentially our early adopter programs, you know, Intergen is very well involved in those types of programs that for you as customers gives you a very good insight into what's coming in the next products, what are the roadmaps, and then how do they take that learning and help you as customers be able to implement faster and to be able to get a greater return on that investment. And then, we do have quite a strong partnership with Intergen on a number of projects that they're working directly with our R&D organisation. And what does that provide to you as clients of Intergen? Well, it provides the ability to feed back into our organisation what is happening in the market and how do we continue to innovate to provide you better solutions as we bring out new releases. I think the last point is really around this program around MVPs, which is again a very select program where we have individuals that are recognised as Microsoft as experts in their field, and it's not an easy thing to get into. And it's great to see that 4 people from Intergen are actually part of that program. It's again, like the Inner Circle, a very select number of individuals that get invited and get recognised by Microsoft into that program.
Hey, just conscious I'm standing between you and coffee, so we have overrun a little bit, so we'll try and be really, really quick. Just to wrap up, firstly, just to thank the sponsors for and helping us support our event. Click Dimensions, who have been a great partner of ours, providing us with some technology for marketing automation. And I know that some of that component is going to be showcased today. And also Microsoft, the Microsoft team have been very supportive of our event throughout the year, throughout the 6 years that we've run this. And again, I think the Microsoft executives from coming over from region has really helped us sort of convey a message of where Microsoft's going with these platforms. Just in terms of the format of today, you have got that on the back of your lanyard. Now, what we normally do is that we normally say that a particular room is for a particular technology, but please do take care because we're really trying to test you this year. We've actually messed up a little bit, and some of those rooms are going to be basically designed based on the demand. So follow what's on these lanyards, not what's on the front of those doors, okay? So I'm rushing through given where we're at. I'm sure you've all been hearing a lot about devices, and devices seems to be prevalent these days. If you want to get your hands on one of these things, be around at our closing event with Kevin Bigger, and we'll make a draw. Those who are still standing will be able to be in to win this device. So please make some noise about this event. We do have a hashtag called Dynamics Day through Twitter. I'm very keen to get your feedback throughout the day. Catch up with us. And as I said, there's 9 members of our leadership here, so we'd be very keen to get some feedback on the day. Obviously, the all-important wireless. I'm sure most of you have already figured out how to connect. But do make the most of this event. We're really keen to catch up, and I just want to say a big thank you to all of the presenters today. Hope you enjoy the conference.